Hey, this week I was watching Jay Leno's Garage, and if you haven't seen Jay Leno's Garage, sometimes what he does is he'll put together a whole episode on a company that is sort of less known, maybe a smaller automobile company, motorcycle company that's sort of just getting started. And they have the CEO come in, they give kind of description of it to explain where that company's roots came from, what they're doing in the industry. And this week on Jay Leno's Garage, we saw an absolutely fantastic motorcycle, and we're lucky enough to have one here today. Let's go take a look. Unfortunately, the CEO was not able to make it, but we've got the bike, so we'll be able to do a review on it. Let's go take a look at this bike. I'm a little excited about this. Let's take a look. And here it is. That's a Ducati. Jay, Ducati's a big manufacturer, I thought. They've been around for not centuries, they've been around for years. Oh wait, Jay's a comedian, so maybe there's some humor in that. But anyways, guys, we got the bike here, so we're gonna check it out. This is the Ducati 848, it's a 2010 edition, and we're just gonna get right to the review right now.
All right, here we have the Ducati 848. This is a 2010 version of the bike, and absolute gorgeous condition. I love how the red paint just looks like it's dripping off the bike. It's a super sport. I know 848 super sport, but that's how it's been described, and that's how the magazines review this bike and the super sport category. So you're going to have a pretty compact riding position. You're going to have a race-ready track bike and streetable. But let's take a look and see what we've got here. So we have single-sided swing arm, nice for Ducati. You've got some amazing actually looks. I just love the front end of this bike. Let's take a look from the front. Very aggressive looking. I love the air intakes. I love the dual headlights. Even the mirrors look really cool hanging off of there. Very compact, very small looking motorcycle. Super cool looking. I love this whole, the way they've done the seat back here. You'll find there's a lot of room on this seat to move around, where a lot of the super sports, you're just sort of tucked in with no room to move around. You can actually have a pillion seat put on this, and let's see, we got Rossi tires on it. Yoo-hoo! Very adjustable suspension, which is fantastic. You can adjust ride height, you can adjust the front end for preload, compression dampening, high-speed preload, all the adjustments you need to make. And same with the back. Really, actually pretty darn fantastic. This adjuster right here is your height adjustment. You can adjust the height of the rear suspension. You can actually adjust preload and then height by, they kind of give you these little bars here to show you the indication of how high you want that front end. Make it steer a little bit quicker if you like. Let's take a look and let's give it a ride. The dash layout actually is pretty nice from this point of view. And we'll start her up. Not the brightest dash in the business, that's for sure. If you have a tinted windscreen, you may have a harder time looking at that dash. There's that Ducati sound. Let's see about these mirrors. Adjust that a little bit. Now, let's give her a little ride around the parking lot. See how this bike does, because so if it's not smooth on power, it'd make it difficult to ride in a parking lot. Now, it's not as easy to ride as, say, a dual sport or, in a parking lot. And not as easy to ride as, say, an adventure bike or something like that. But it actually is really a smooth motor. You do have to modulate the clutch because first gear is pretty high. And the other thing I'll show you, I'm going to stop here for a second. If I turn all the way to the lock, my hand actually hits the fairing on both sides. So you're not going to do a lock-to-lock steering in a parking lot unless you move your hands out. It's just kind of the compact design of the Super Sport. That's not going to happen on the road because you don't go lock-to-lock on the road. I hope not. The motor's nice and smooth. Let's take her out and we'll give her a ride. Let's go out to the back country and find some windy roads and give it a ride out there. And I'll catch you in a moment. All right, here we are. We're out on the windy roads with the Ducati 848. Now, I'm not going to give you a bunch of specs. What I like to give you is a seat of the pants. How does this bike feel? How does it perform? You know, to the riding experience, not all the spec sheets. If you want the spec sheets, like on the brakes, on the suspension, you know, just Google it and you'll find all that stuff. I'm not really here to give you that kind of stuff. As far as we're getting out on the road, we're going to see how this thing performs on the street, on the windy roads, and that should be a lot of fun. I just love it. This bike looks super cool. This dual exhaust coming out the back sounds good. And it rides really well. All right, I say we get to it. Let's give her a ride. All righty, let's hear that Ducati sound again. Let's turn that key on, give it a start, and give her a ride. Tell you what, this bike really likes to rev, man. And I'll tell you right up front, you know, I'm a little hot and cold on Ducatis. There's some of the old ones I think are horrid, and some of the new ones I actually think are just amazing. And it's not just old and new, they're just sort of kind of been hit and miss for me. So absolutely love the 1098 motor. That is just a gorgeous, I lust after that motor. Another bike that I actually don't like on Ducati's lineup is the Monster 1200, sort of the earlier version. So not the brand new one, but the earlier, the 1200 Monster. It's abrupt. It's the fueling's not all that great, and then people love that bike, and it just takes you a little while to get used to it. And then it's like you can start to love it, but for me, it's just too much of a harsh bike to get to love. And then let's see, what else do we got? The newest Multistradas are just fantastic, you know, and I didn't really like, there's sort of the whole midsection of, like, the early Multistradas are really cool, super reliable bikes, super classic looking. And then there was a whole bunch of years, all the way up to about 2013, where I just absolutely hated them. They were on my blacklist, never buy. And then the newer ones from 2013 and up, man, oh man, are they awesome bikes. So how do I feel about this one? So let's ride it and see. First, the power and the motor. You know, I've heard these things love to rev, and the way it sounds when you rev it out is just awesome. The handling is really nice, and I want to explain sort of why I like the handling of this bike. So the first part of the suspension is just, you know, the little bumps, it soaks them up. The little tiny ones, you know, that could be irritating, it sort of soaks them up. It's like it's progressive. And then you have some pretty good stiffness, so it handles really well in the corners, you know. It's a super sport, and it just seems to handle that transition from the soft, a little bit soft to harder suspension, and handles it pretty well. There's a good bump coming up, so I'm really curious how that's going to handle over this bridge, because this is a pretty harsh bump here. See, that's really nice. Now, you guys, this is the first time I've ridden this bike. I haven't taken it out before this, so I'm kind of just getting the idea of how this bike is while we ride. So I'm giving you my first impressions. It's a very aggressive stance. It's a super sport stance, you know, like the 600s, the R6. I'd be more of a classification of like the GSX R700 kind of category. Let's take it up here and see how, I love how when it's revving, can you hear the motor? Let's bring that up to about 8,000 RPM and just listen to that motor for a second. All the way up to 9,000 RPM. Woo-hoo-hoo! Yeah! That's unbelievable. this motor. Man, Ducati's got some of these motors just rev so nicely. You know, that's one of the reasons I didn't like that 1200 motor. It just doesn't like to rev. This thing, it just revs and revs and revs. Oh yeah! Listen to that motor! It is awesome sounding. Well, you just want these roads to go forever. Holy smokes. Yep. Okay. So ask me now, what are my favorite Ducati motors? So right now, I'm going to tell you. So my favorite Ducati motors, I'm going to turn this off. The 1098, I just absolutely love that motor. It's fantastic. This 848, it's right there, man. Oh my God. It is just, it's fantastic. Whew. Oh, that's exhilarating. It's just awesome. The ride is really good. I'm going to show you the seat here because I feel like on this bike I have a little bit more room to move around in this seat, and it's pretty comfortable because it's flat back here and you've got some room here. It's a very narrow bike, so sitting at a stoplight, your feet are right flat on the ground. Really nice. You slide back a little bit and you've got this comfort of this flatter seat in back. It's a stiff seat, so you know, it's not like a gushy seat. More European, and I like that. It's for me more comfortable. You're in a very aggressive riding position, so for long distance it's not going to be super comfortable, but man, I think, you know, a few hundred miles be no problem at all. Why don't we take it back down the hill, see how it is going downhill, and kind of cruise nice and smooth. There's that Ducati sound again. Let's head down the hill. Can you ride this bike slow? I think so. Here, we're gonna slow down. Let's see how it is just kind of cruising. I can kind of sit up a little bit more upright. Can move around in that seat a little bit. It's a bike that's really easy to hang off of, and when you get really off to the side, your arm sort of lays into the tank perfectly. I really like that because it's more of a secure feeling when you're really hanging in and off the bike. You'll get the sort of your forearm rest right along the tank, and it just gives you a little bit more feeling of control. The display is in the perfect position where I'm sitting right now, where the cutout of the windscreen is perfect for the, it actually goes right, contours right along the top of that display there. So I have a pretty good view of it. I think they could have made the contrast a little bit more, or maybe some brightness to that, just to make it stand out a little bit more. So I got to look at it for about a second before I can see what I'm doing there. Yeah, we'll pull over to the side of the road and call this a wrap, because I tell you what, fantastic bike. It is absolutely awesome as far as its riding and its looks. Just absolutely love it. Here's that sound, so you guys can hear that sound a little bit. Got the dual exhaust there. The Rossi tires are nice. Just a beautiful tire, beautiful bike. That is the Ducati 848. Boom.